Okay. Okay, so we're doing relating percents to decimals and fractions. And this is in your grade 6 textbook, page 371, number 6.
Introduce mouth.
Introduce mouth. Okay, so first thing we need to do is they've given us the location Brazil and a fraction of 8 over 25. To turn a fraction into a decimal, we need to divide them. Okay, so what we're going to do, when you have a question like this, we'll do it in blue so you can see, and we'll write it here in black. 8 over 25. What this means is when you read this, this means the number 8. This line here means divided by, and the number at the bottom means 25. Okay, so that's 8 divided by 25. That's what that question says. So when we go to write this down, what actually happens is we have 8, and then we have our division, 25. So that actually says 8 divided by 25. So it looks almost like it's reversed. Okay, when we write it into our division. So if I were to start dividing 25 into 8, 25 doesn't go into 8. It doesn't work. So we have to extend it. We have to put a 0, a decimal. So now we read this as 25. Does 25 go into the number not just 8, but 80?
No. Yes.
Yeah, we can get 25 into 80. So first thing we're always going to do is we're going to bring our decimal up here. Okay? How many times does 25 go into 80? We can figure it out by writing the multiples of 25. So we can do 25 times 1 on the side. That's going to be 25.
Count by 25.
Okay, that goes in. Let's go to the next one. Times 2, 50. Yeah, that goes in. Let's see if we can get closer though, right? 25 times 3. That one's pretty close. That's probably it. Let's do 25 times 4 just to be... That's 100. That's right. So this one is too large. All right? We've got 100. That's too big. Okay? That's too big for 80. So we're going to be using this. 75. 75 works out great. It's less than 80. So what that means is we have to use this number 3. So we're actually going to use this entire part here. Okay, we're going to use the 3, and we're going to put the 3 above, and we're going to subtract 80, and we're going to subtract, 75 from 80. So when we go to write that, it looks like this. 25 goes into 80, like we said, 3, so we write the number 3 there. 25 times 3 is 75. So now we subtract that. 80 subtract 75 is what? 5. That's right. Okay. Well, we need to keep going, all right? So because we're past the decimal, we can continue to add zeros. So we're going to actually put another 0 on here. Now the good part about writing out the multiples here, you'll see in a second. So we bring this 0 down, right? And now we have the number 50. Now we still have to work with 25 has to now go into the number 50 we're looking for. So how many times does 25 go into 50? If we look at our multiples, we already have it. Yeah, that's right. If we look at our multiples, we already have 25 times 2. 25 times 2 is 50. So we can write that in. Okay? So we're going to put the number 2 over here. We had before. Number 2 goes up there. And 25 times 2 is 50. So we go to subtract. 0. Okay, so we now have our decimal. 0.32. Okay? So we're going to go up. And we're going to write that back in. 0.32. Okay? So now we've done that. Now to put things into percent, using the exact same numbers, we'll do this step in red. Okay? When we go from decimal to percent, we take that number, our 0.32, okay? And anything into a percent, we just move the decimal twice. Okay? So we move it over twice. 1, 2, to the right. So our new number is 32, well, 32%. There's no other numbers right after it. So our new percent is 32. Okay, so looking at that, it's pretty easy to go from decimal to percent. So we'll write that one in too. So now our percent is 32. Well, that's we'll say that's our A, okay? So that was our 6A. But now we're going to do the other steps. We're going to try to go from decimal to percent, which is easy. We already know how to do that. Tell me what that would be as a percent.
11.
Yeah, we just moved the decimal twice, right? Like we said. We would just move it over twice, and we'd have the number 11 now. So we write the number 11 as our percent. That part's easy. We've already done that. Here's the tough part. We got to go from decimal to fraction. So we'll call that our 6b, okay? So we'll do our work down here. 6b. How are we for time? Oh, good, on 5 minutes. Okay, so the question said decimal 0.11, right? So we have 0.11. And I have to make this a fraction. Well, what I do is I move the decimal over to the end. And every time I move a decimal, so I'll do this in red so we have an idea of what I'm talking about. Our number here, we're going to move it over. So I'm going to actually write this number, 0, 1, 1. Technically we have a decimal. Underneath the 0, we put the number 1. Okay? And every time we move our decimal over, so let's move our decimal here. Oops. That worked out nice. Every time we move our decimal over, so we moved it over once, we have to add a 0. Here, we had to move it actually twice to get the number 11. So we had 2 zeros on the bottom. So what that looks like is 11 over 100. So I'm going to do that a little quicker without the steps there again. So we take this number 1, 1, and all we do is move the decimal twice, so we make the number 11. And because we moved the decimal twice, we have number 1, we have to put 2 zeros underneath. So now our fraction is actually 11 over 100. Okay? 11 over 100. So now we can reduce this fraction, or we could just leave it the way it is. Okay? So we're going to try to figure that out right now. Whoops. So now that we have 11 over 100, I just want to prove it. I want to make sure that that's right. Okay, so I'm going to extend this page. I want to make sure that's right. We'll keep doing it in red. 11 over 100. Well, if you guys remember, what that means is 11 divided by 100. Okay, so we're actually going to write that out. So we're actually going to put our 11 inside, right? We have our division divided by 100. Okay, well, we got to figure this out. Does 100 go into 11?
No.
No, so we have to make this bigger. Now this number is 110. So we have our decimal here. Does 100 go into 110?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, let's do our multiples of 100 just to make sure how many times. So 100 times 1 is?
100.
How about 100 times 2?
200.
Yeah, that's right. So that's a little too big, right? So we're going to be using the first one. 100 goes into 110 how many times? 1. So we put the number 1. And we bring our 100, put it down below. So we subtract now. Okay. What does 110 subtract 100?
10.
We still have a number, so we have to have another 0. Bring it down. Now we're looking at 100 into 100. Does 100 go into 100?
Yes.
How many times?
Once.
Good thing we wrote them down here. Once. 100. What's that?
0.
0. What decimal do we have?
Decimal
11. That's how we checked. We divided them to make sure it was right from our fraction. So is that what we started with?
Yeah.
0.11? Good. So now let's actually go fill in our box up there. 11 over 100. Put it in. The fraction was 11 over 100. And finally our percent. Okay? Let's do our percent here. So we have 9%. We'll call this 6C. Okay?
Technically, there's no 6C in the
There's no 6C?
because the six pieces like that.
Oh, that's okay. All right. We'll just calling it that. Okay. So now 9%. We take the number 9. Okay? So we have our 9%. First of all, how do I turn 9% into a decimal? Where is the decimal if I write the number 9 right now? It's after it. How many times did I have to move the decimal place I said? Yeah. When we were going the other way, so when we started back up here, if you remember, we moved it to the right because we were going from a decimal. So we bring it down here. We were going from a decimal. We run 2. We brought it over right. This time, we're going to go backwards, the other way, because we're going from a percent to a decimal.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move this decimal 1, 2. So what's in front of this?
0.
0. So what's my new decimal? Or sorry, what's my new number? Decimal 0.9. That's what we're working with in our decimal. So we go back up and fill that in. 0.09. Decimal 0.9. Yeah, I get it, 0. And do you remember how to go from decimal to fraction?
You do 5.
Right? So remember, what we have to do here is we put this number down. We have our decimal 0.9. Right? Technically, I have to move it how many spots? 1, 2. So because I have to move it 2, how many zeros do I put after the 1?
2.
2. So our fraction is actually, when we move this twice, what number does this become?
A 9.
Just a 9. But we had to go over 100. So what's my new fraction?
9 over 100.
9 over 100.